Recording Academy, vocals.
All right, in this lesson, we're gonna tackle the vocal track. Now, we've already done the guide tracks. We have a guide vocal and we have a guide acoustic guitar. That's really just so I have something that can sing with, and then also I can have something that can play along with that's on the click track. So I'm gonna go over quickly the setup that I'm using for recording vocals in today's video, and then I'm gonna show you some of the techniques of recording in Studio One. I will have a section at the end of this video you feel free to watch if you like, where I'm gonna be recording all of my takes, but just know that this session file can be downloaded. So if you wanna open up this session for yourself in PreSonus Studio One, you'll be able to see all of my vocal tracks, even the outtakes, the takes that don't make it into the final mix. That way you can play along with it. As we're going from lesson to lesson, you can open up each of those versions, okay? So when I'm setting up for vocals in today's video, I'm using the Shure SM7B. This was in the gear guide. This is a large diaphragm dynamic microphone. A few things I want to mention about this microphone is that it does have a pop filter that you can easily slide off. Now, if you take off the pop filter, it's gonna be more susceptible to like harsh sounds, S's and P's. We call these things plosives or sibilants. And so having this big piece of foam essentially works just like a pop filter would on a condenser microphone. So I always keep this on when I'm doing vocals. Also on the back side of the microphone, there's a few different EQ settings that you can use. There's like a presence boost, and then there's also a low cut. A low cut is gonna remove basically all the rumbles that you would hear from like an air conditioning unit, maybe some cars driving by outside. It takes away all those really low frequencies that shouldn't be present in most vocal recordings. And also there's a presence boost, so you'll see a little bit of a spike in the high end. So if you're recording with the Shure SM7B and you feel like it's kind of dull, just feel free to grab a pencil or something that you can push this dip switch up, and that'll engage a presence boost, and you'll see that on the microphone. My SM7B is running into my cloud lifter. Again, the cloud lifter is basically giving me a preamp boost for the SM7B. It's not completely necessary if you're using something like the Scarlett audio interface, but some of the more affordable audio interfaces where you really have to turn up the preamp gain too much. If you're a loud singer, you may not need this, but if you're somebody that's doing something that's really quiet or whispering, or maybe a podcast, if you're just talking, highly recommend you check out the cloud lifter. So my SM7B is plugged into the cloud lifter. My cloud lifter is going to channel 1 of my audio interface, and you can see on screen, I've got a readout of everything that my audio interface is set to. I've got the 48 volt phantom power switch turned on because the cloud lifter needs that extra power for it to work. And then my preamp gain right now is set to, on the Scarlett 2i2, it's about 35% or so on the knob. If you find yourself turning the preamp gain up to like 70%, you may want to check something out like the cloud lifter, because the more you turn up these preamps, the more noise is going to be introduced into your recording signal. But when I'm setting the gain, when I'm singing, I basically want to aim for where it says 18. 18 means I have 18 decibels of headroom. I will certainly go louder than 18 decibels, but I want the overall average volume of my singing quality to be around 18. So make sure you play around with your gain knob on your audio interface so you have everything set up there. Now, for the sake of the Recording Academy, I'm not gonna be using auto gain. I'm not gonna use the safe or the air. These are kind of very specific to the Focusrite line of audio interfaces. Generally speaking, I've just got an SM7B plugged into a cloud lifter, plugged into my audio interface, and I've got my gain set so where I'm singing, it's usually around 18 or -12 decibels on the meter. Everything else is pretty much standard. So when we're adding a vocal track, I'm gonna click the plus button right here for add tracks, or you can hit T on your keyboard. I'm gonna add the track. I'm gonna name this one vocal. I'm gonna name it lead vocal, be nice and clear. I'm gonna have one of these audio tracks. Again, we're on audio. I'm gonna give this vocal a nice, let's go with this light blue color. It's gonna be a mono track. I'm just recording one microphone right now. I'm not using any effects chains, and I'm plugged into channel 1 of my audio interface. I'm gonna go with input 1. Output is set to main. If I click OK, we now have a lead vocal track. But as you can see, the guide vocal and the guide guitar are still enabled for recording. So I wanna go up here and I wanna click this to turn off record enable. Again, if you have that record enable, if it is red, if this is red where it says record enable, these will be recorded. Anytime I hit record, it will re-record new information. I've already got the guide vocal. I've got the guide guitar set up. I don't want to record over them at this moment. So I'm gonna have that red button turned off. Now my lead vocal, I do want to record. So I'm gonna hit this button here. As soon as I do, also have software monitoring turned on. I can turn that off because I've got my headphones plugged into my Scarlett 2i2 where it has a direct monitor switch on the front. So again, I'm using these in-ear monitors from Shure. These are nice and flush. They'll go inside my ears. Not something that I want to use if I'm mixing the song, but I want to make sure that the click track is not coming through on the microphone. So I'm gonna put these in-ears in. The in-ears are plugged into a headphone extension cable that are running into the headphone jack of my Scarlett audio interface. Now I'll just basically set it to a volume where I can hear the click track enough to stay on beat, but I don't want the click track or my headphones volume, I don't want it to be so loud that the microphone can hear what's happening. If you have a pair of open back headphones or a less quality pair of headphones, you'll notice that the click track will be bleeding through into the microphone. So we call that click bleed, all right? So that is the general setup. We'll get into the nitty gritty of how I'm gonna record multiple takes at once in just a minute, but I'll get my in-ears plugged in and we'll get to singing. All right, one of the benefits of having a guide guitar and a guide vocal is that I don't have to rely on the click track as much as I normally would because those were recorded to the click. So I'm gonna open up the mix tab down here and I'm gonna go to where it has my click volume and I'm gonna change it from -14. I'm gonna bring it down to about -18 or so. Let's hit spacebar and take a listen.
Those woods are my shore. How could I, as rich as I, ever want more? Where I come from.
Nice. So I could actually turn it down a lot more. I'm at -30 on the click track. And again, I'm just wanting to hear a little bit of the click track so I know just about where I'm at. But again, if you missed it on the last lesson, we made this arrangement view so I can clearly see where the verse is. I can see where the chorus is, turn around verse 2, and so forth. So now how do we get to recording? So the first thing I want to do is I want to go in, I'm going to mute this guide vocal. So now we don't have the guide vocal. I pretty well know this song and where we're at. If you need to have the guide vocal on, that's totally fine. Also, if you decide to record your acoustic guitar first, your electric guitar, drums, bass guitar, it might be useful to use the guide vocal. I want to get the vocal recorded as soon as possible because to me, if I've got the vocal in place, the vocal is not going to change. So I want to get that into the mix as soon as possible and that can work around it. It'll definitely influence like when I'm playing drums, when I'm playing the piano, how much I'm actually playing because I don't want to get in the way of the vocal. So I've got the guide vocal muted at the moment. I've got the guide guitar track right here. It's of substantial volume for me to be able to hear. I'm gonna zoom in. So if you're using a trackpad like on the MacBook Pro, you just take your 2 fingers and just kind of spread them out. And as you spread them out, you'll be able to zoom in and get some more clarity. So about measure 10 is where I'm gonna start. I've got a couple measures where I can listen to the music and then I'm gonna start on verse 1. Now for this first initial vocal, I'm basically just gonna go to the bottom of the screen and I'm gonna hit this record button. We're just gonna record on the lead vocal track and then we'll talk about doing multiple takes as we need to. I've got a PDF pulled up here. If you need to access the PDF to follow along for whatever reason, it should be available for download as well. Just look out for those links. So verse 1, where I come from, there ain't no palm trees, no beaches, no sand. Here we go.
Where I come from, there ain't no palm trees, no beaches, no sand. No brand new shiny sports cars, just a few trucks on hand. There's a tire swing still hanging on the crooked old oak tree, where my Uncle Buck Wind broke his arm doing tricks in '03.
Nice. Okay, now I'm gonna take a listen. Whenever you're done recording, you can just hit the space bar in PreSonus Studio One. Make sure my chord track is where it needs to be. So I'm gonna take a listen now. We have the guide guitar and this is the lead vocal. I'm gonna take a listen. So I'm just gonna click up here about measure 12 on the little timeline. I can select it here, move the playback into position. Then I'm gonna hit spacebar to listen back to what we've got.
Where I come from, there ain't no palm trees, no beaches, no sand. No brand new shiny sports cars, just a few trucks on hand. There's a tire swing still hanging on the crooked old oak tree where my Uncle Buck Wind broke his arm doing tricks in '03.
Okay, I'm happy with that initial recording. We are going to go through and do some retakes in the future, but here's something that I like to do. So I do everything in chunks. I'd much rather make sure that I've got verse 1 checked off and it's good to go. I'll just sing verse 1 and then I'll stop. So technically this is going into the pre-chorus section. That creek is my ocean, those woods are my shore. Instead of recording over our original lead vocal, what I will do is I'll take the lead vocal track, put my mouse over it, I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to duplicate track. So now we have a lead vocal and we have a lead vocal 2. What this will allow me to do is I can start recording on lead vocal 2 without messing up what I already have in lead vocal 1. And I'll show you how to combine these two later. So I'm going to turn off the record enable on the lead vocal track. I'm going to turn on record enable on the lead vocal 2. And what I can do is I can zoom in here to the second half of verse 1, about measure 17 or so. Make sure the playhead is in place. So now when I hit record, I'm going to hear lead vocal 1 on verse 1. I'm just going to be listening, anticipating, and then when it gets to the pre-chorus, that creek is my ocean, that's when I'll start singing. Okay, so here we are, lead vocal 2. I'm going to hit record. Let's sing this pre-chorus.
Few trucks on hand. There's a tire swing still hanging on the crooked old oak tree where my Uncle Buck Wind broke his arm doing tricks in '03. That creek is my ocean, those woods are my shore. How could I, as rich as I, ever want more?
Okay, so this is going to have to be re-recorded. I didn't really like that take. When I got to the end of ever want more, I need to do that part again. So what I'm going to do, it's such a small section, I'm just going to select the audio region. I can just click anywhere on lead vocal 2. I'm just going to click this waveform, and if I hit the backspace key, it is now deleted. Now in PreSonus Studio One, even though you're not seeing this on the timeline, even though I just hit the backspace key, the actual file is not deleted for good. If I open up the Browse tab and I go to the pool, if I open up the pool, I'll actually see lead vocal 2 right there. You can see this audio file. So if I need to recover anything, open up the pool, which is in the Browse tab. You can click and drag, and I can drop this back in. And wouldn't you know, there's our lead vocal 2. So I'm just removing it from the timeline. It's not actually deleting the file completely, okay? I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna re-record this. So we got it deleted with the backspace key. I'm about measure 16. I'll hit record and we'll try this again.
Few trucks on hand. There's a tire swing still hanging on the crooked old oak tree where my Uncle Buck Wind broke his arm doing tricks in '03. That creek is my ocean, those woods are my shore. How could I, as rich as I, ever want more?
Nice, so that one felt a lot better. So now we're gonna talk about trimming some of these audio regions. As you can see, I've got a big cough right here. We don't want to hear coughing on the final mix. So there's a couple ways of going about trimming off this excess recording. If you move your mouse to just the edge of the audio region, you see how it turns from a black mouse, it turns into this vertical bar with a couple of arrows on either side. If I click and drag this, I can basically tighten up this recording. So it's going to be removing everything that I'm dragging through. So I'm going to drag this all the way up to just about where we start singing. I'm also take the end of this, and if I move my mouse here, I can move this and tighten this up. You can do the same thing on the first lead vocal. You can zoom in as close as you want, click and drag. If you're having a hard time, like if it's snapping to the grid, as you click and hold down, you can hit the shift key. And if I'm holding the shift key, it gives me the most amount of freedom to where I can really go in and cinch up these tracks. So here, that looks a lot cleaner. You're seeing one vocal start and end, and where the first one ends, the other one starts off. So what I can do, I can take this lead vocal 2, and I can just simply click and drag it up to lead vocal 1. So now they're all on the same timeline. Let's take a listen to that.
Uncle Buck Wind broke his arm doing tricks in '03. That creek is my ocean, those woods are my shore. How could I, as rich as I, ever want more?
right, now we've made it to the chorus of the song. Now I want to introduce a few different techniques for recording. You can feel free, like if you want to record the way that I was just recording, where you have a lead vocal 1, a lead vocal 2, you're kind of tightening up as you go along. You're always comping it back to lead vocal 1. It's totally fine if you want to do it that way. Here's some new techniques that you can make use of. I showed you before the loop region. If I go just above the timeline here, where my mouse turns into a pencil, I can click and drag and create a loop region over the chorus. I'm gonna drag it out a little bit before and a little bit beyond the chorus. Once I have that region set up, I'm gonna hit the question mark key on my keyboard, which will enable the loop. So the loop will continuously go back and forth. It'll just keep on going until the cows come home. And this is especially effective if you want to save time, and if you're somebody that records yourself at home, you want to make use of the loop region. So now, if I'm on lead vocal 2, I want to record this chorus 1. As soon as I hit record, what will happen is I can go back to like measure 22 or so. I'm going to hit record, and every time it hits the end of the loop, it will go back to the beginning of the loop, and it will keep recording over and over. And every time that loop passes over, it's going to create a new take. You can switch around the takes. So if you need to sing something 5 times in a row, you'll easily be able to switch between the 3rd performance and the 4th performance. If the 4th performance wasn't as good as the 2nd performance, you can switch around as much as you need to. Again, it's totally up to you. You can record the way that I was early on verse 1. I'm gonna show you the loop recording, and then we'll show you how you can use the takes from there. So I'm about at measure 22 or so. I'm on lead vocal 2. I'm gonna hit record, and I'm gonna record a couple of takes of this chorus.
Those woods are my shore. How could I, as rich as I, ever want more? Where I come from, just a dirt road in the backwoods with a deer stand in a front porch. Just a boat ride when the water's right and a fish caught on my hook. That sunrise when it hits her eyes and she gives me that old look. I know that I've already won where I come from. I want more. Where I come from. Where I come from. Just a dirt road near the backwoods with a deer stand and a front porch. Just a boat ride when the water's right and a fish caught on my hook. That sunrise when it hits her eyes and she gives me that old look. I know that I've already won where I come from. I want more.
Okay, so I've hit spacebar. As soon as I do, you notice at the bottom of this audio track, you see this little stack. It's got horizontal layers. What it's showing me is that there are multiple takes underneath. So if I click this little stack here, you can see we have take 1 and take 2. If I select take 1, you see the audio waveforms shift over. So this is take 1.
Where I come from. Where I come from. Just a dirt road in the backwoods with a deer stand and a front porch. Just a boat ride when the water's right and a fish caught on my hook.
All right, so on that one, I could tell that when I sang just a dirt road in the backwoods, there's a couple of times I said something different. So if I take a listen to this.
Just a dirt road in the backwoods with a deer.
You could tell I really wasn't sure what I was doing there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select take 2 and see how take 2 did.
Where I come from. Where I come from. Just a dirt road near the backwoods with a deer stand and a front porch. Just a boat ride when the water's right and a fish caught on my hook. That sunrise when it hits her eyes and she gives me that old look. I know that I've already won where I come from.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna right click. I'm gonna unpack takes, and I'm gonna unpack them to new layers. All right, so now we can clearly see we have take 1 and take 2. Now, when you're comping your vocals, what we're basically doing is we're trying to take the best of both categories. So I really like the beginning of take 2 and I like the end of take 1. So what I want to do is I want to take the beginning of take 2. I'm going to click and drag where it's got this little hourglass. I'm going to select take 2 all the way up until about that point there. And then the rest of it should be take 1. So we're going to select that. Just click and drag. So now we kind of have this hybrid where we have the beginning part of take 2, and then we have the end section of take 1. Let's take a listen to that.
More where I come from, where I come from. Just a dirt road near the backwoods with a deer stand and a front porch. Just a boat ride when the water's right and a fish caught on my hook. That sunrise when it hits her eyes and she gives me that old look. I know that I've already won where I come from.
Great. All right. Now we've got this here. We can turn off the expand layers, leaving us with our comped vocal. Now you can go crazy with this. If you want to do multiple layers and you want to take certain syllables, certain words, you can really get in as close as you want to. I'm going to select this first section here where it's got a little bit of a cough. I'm just going to hit the delete key. Don't need that information. We also don't need this one right here. Great. Now with that, I can leave this lead vocal 2 in place. I do want to try to tighten these up as much as possible. So I'm going to zoom in real close. I'm going to hold the shift key as I click and drag this into place. I'm going to hold the shift key. I'm going to click and drag this into place. Then I can take both of these. I can select them both, click and drag, and then just click and drag them up there. Great. So that is a brief explanation of how we're doing verse 1, pre-chorus, and chorus 1. Personally, I'm a little bit more like a dinosaur, but I prefer to just keep these things separate. So I'll have lead vocal 1, lead vocal 2. If I'm really struggling with a passage, I will use the loop region, usually practice as much as I can. You have a lot more liberties when you're recording yourself than if you're recording someone else. But those are the 2 simple techniques for going through and recording. Now I'm just going to record verse 2 and chorus 2 in the outro. Feel free to listen along if you like, but that is essentially all for recording our vocals. If you want to get fancy and you want to go in and record background vocals, you want to add harmonies, I want to encourage you just to simply do what we did before. Just keep right-clicking and go to duplicate track. When you duplicate the track, you can go in and rename those duplicated tracks like backing vocal 1, backing vocal 2, etc. as far as you want to take. Now there are many other videos here on my channel other than the Recording Academy, but make sure you check the playlist for Recording Academy for more lessons as they're being uploaded. YouTube is recommending this video just over my shoulder, so give that one a watch and I'll see you at the next video.